Present.
Supervisor Long?
Present.
Supervisor Fiedler? Supervisor Shirley?
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. We'll do approval of the minutes. Is there any additions or corrections? Any additions or corrections to the minutes? Any additions or corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, we'll stand the minutes as approved. Public comment. Is there any public comment? Any public comment? Any public comment? We will close that portion of the agenda and move on to our business items. Number one, financial report. So we'll either turn that over to Dustin or okay, awesome.
Thank you, Chair. So I didn't really have anything to talk about for the department reports, but on the admin tax reports, just want to highlight that our vehicle registration fees are tracking just like last year. We're not really seeing any dip in that. And then sales tax, we're trending just a little bit higher than last year. We saw a big jump in March, kind of like we have in past historical months. So we haven't really seen any negative impacts in the sales tax collected so far this year. Then on the KIP report, I just wanted to point out at the top under the grants, other governments, we received a couple grant reimbursements for some KIP projects. $125,000 for the Glen Hills, that little front, the restroom and check-in facility up front in Glen Hills. And then for the 35 bike trail, $770,000 grant. So Jason's team's been collecting on those. So that just goes back into the KIP fund to replenish it for the costs that we've incurred so far. Any questions on anything else?
Are there any questions? Any questions from the committee? Any questions? All right.
Thanks.
Thank you. We will close that portion, go on to number two, consideration of tax deed bids. Am I turning this over to Corporation Counsel?
I think Christine.
Oh, County Clerk, Christine. We're turning that over to you.
Hello, good evening. So I'm back. I have, as you remember from last month, we have those parcels that are on the website for ongoing sale. I did receive a combined bid for 2 of the 6 parcels that remain out there from Mr. Baumbach. If you remember, he was here last month and kind of spoke about what his intention was with those parcels. He's aware that they're conservation easements. His only plan is to plant apple trees on them for his own personal use. In your packet, you can see the 2, can I do this? Oh, I can. Just the properties. So that one outlined in green is one of the 2 properties that he has submitted a bid on. These are both in the town of Troy. And that particular property, he has submitted a bid for, find my papers, that's the 998, $5,600 for that property. The other property is just below that property, highlighted there in green, and he has submitted a bid for $4,300 for that property. He did submit a combined bid then of $9,900 for the 2 properties because his intention is to hopefully get both of them. If not both, then I believe neither of them, correct? Yes, so that's why he went the combined route way. These were advertised in 2024 for sale. We received no bids on them, so we did lower the value set for them, and now they're just out there for ongoing sale. Both the town of Troy were notified of the ongoing sale, as was adjacent property owners, and we've received no other bids for these properties.
Excellent. And you're looking for a motion to accept the bids?
I'll move to.
All right, we got a motion by Long and a second by Fiedler. Discussion?
I do have a question.
Okay. Go ahead, Supervisor Long.
The gentleman is an adjacent property owner, is that correct?
He is not an adjacent property owner.
Is not.
No, but all the adjacent property owners have been notified twice of the intended sale of the property, and none of them are interested in it. And this isn't anything he could build on. And he's aware of that. I believe he's talked to the town of Troy.
I have, and I currently own a vacant. Pardon me?
Could we have you step up to the mic? State your name and address for the record, please.
Matthew Baumbach, and I have an adjacent vacant parcel, a non-adjacent vacant parcel in the same subdivision. And it is under that one that the town of Troy has said I could put up a farm stand, a little roadside stand for selling apples. Because that particular vacant parcel is under the commercial side of 35. It's just a little sublot of that, an outlot of that. These two parcels, the apple orchard wouldn't be a U-pick. That's not in the spirit of conservation district there. It would just be something that I could bring over to the other vacant parcel.
Go ahead, Supervisor Counter.
Just a couple of things. One, excuse me, is there then a deed restriction being placed as far as for any structures to be placed on the property, or is there one in place currently?
Go ahead,
I
Heather.
think it's just recorded in the Register of Deeds as a conservation easement, and then the restrictions are stated in the conservation easement, and then those would be enforced by the town of Troy because they have their own zoning.
Okay. With it being also conservation, is any of that a, excuse me, stormwater retention or anything where there would be cause for concern if they're doing plantings through it that would, for future maintenance?
I don't know the answer to that. I don't think they're listed as outlots, or they're listed specifically as conservation easements. So I don't know the answer to that question off the top of my head. I was hoping Jason would be here, but.
If there was, they would be deed restricted for that already.
Correct, right, yeah. So some are, deed restricted as stormwater holding ponds, but I only see that this says conservation easement on the deed documents.
From the aerial, there's no wet ponds. I mean, they may have some dry drainage areas, and if that is a designated drainage, it would already be deed restricted onto that property.
Correct, yeah. It's just concern because I'd hate to have them do a bunch of plantings and then find out after the fact. So it'd be something to look into to make sure.
If there was a drainage easement, it would be in the description, the legal description. There are other properties in the same area that aren't in their description are not conservation easements, but drainage easements. So I think it would be noted if that was the case. I think it would
Okay,
be in the
good.
description.
Thank you.
Yeah, you can come up.
Oh, thank you.
Yep.
On the larger of the two parcels, there is a drainage easement on the west side. And so I'm aware of that, including the area that drains from the street. So I realize that that area won't be an area that I'd planned on using other than to access the area that's a little higher ground and not part of that conservation easement. The drainage part overlapping the conservation easement.
Yeah, you can probably see where that is. This looked like a dry drainage detention spot right there, and probably a ditch line coming to it, but.
And right across the street there, that parcel that's across the street, that parcel is identified as a drainage easement right now. It's listed on the document before this document. So that's not one that Mr. Bombeck has bid on, but that one is for sale on the county website and is specifically indicated as a drainage easement.
On these parcels, we wouldn't be looking at adding any new restrictions on them. Whoever created them and developed them and put drainage stuff should have done all of that at the beginning.
Are there any further discussion?
Yeah, it wasn't that I'm looking to create any more than what it is. It's just being aware if there is things there to protect the buyer so that he isn't, it'd be frustrating to have a plant over and then have to maintain the drainage easement in the future.
No, thank you, sir.
All right, any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the consideration of tax deed bids signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is approved. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Christine. Number 3, consideration of capital improvement projects for the administrative departments. Administrator Witt.
I'll make these a little bit bigger so we can read them on the screen. So this is the full 5-year KIP plan. We highlighted the sections for those departments that report to the administration committee. It's kind of a first look. We take it to each of the five standing committees to give them a look. And really what we're looking for is, it seems reasonable to you, you're in agreement, or there's something you're absolutely opposed to or absolutely want to endorse and make sure it does happen. So just to give you that early look at these different items. So I'll just run through the list real quick. We have a bunch of recurring items. So building remodeling, furniture, plumbing, there's $200,000 a year. We do that every year. That's just maintenance of the facilities that we have. Fleet vehicle replacement, that's our non-law enforcement fleet, $260,000 a year. Electrical equipment, again, it's maintenance of buildings, as is the HVAC for $125,000, and the safety and security for $45,000. Those are all recurring items. They're on there every year, and it's really just how we maintain the infrastructure that we have. The next one then, Project 10051, it has $50,000 out in 2027, and then again, $50,000 out in 2030. These are recurring, but they're more every few years where we come through and we're maintaining the parking lots that we have. There's a folder machine. It's either the circuit court or treasurer's office. They trade off back and forth every 5 years on that. We have a project out in 2027, a new parking lot for the DD building. This would be a full reconstruction of that parking lot. We have in 27 a replacement of the government center's west driveway after all the other construction projects wrap up, fixing that up. We also have $1.6 million for the government center's jail roof. So those two projects, the $1.6 million, the $130,000, if we do the jail project, the big jail project, which went to safety, you guys don't get to talk about that one. But if we did the big jail project, these wouldn't be needed as standalones. These would be rolled into that. But if we don't do that one, you're still gonna have to have a new roof and you're still gonna have to repair the driveways. So if you don't do the jail, those stay. If you do the jail, we'll pull these off. The DD building then.
Could I ask one quick question?
Yep.
Could either you or our facilities manager just talk a little bit about the DD building parking lot and, how long it's been there, what's wrong with it?
Yeah.
$220,000 worth of asphalt? Is that what we're looking at?
Yeah. Taylor.
What's the traffic at the DD building to justify that?
Oh, the traffic is the sheriff's department, facilities uses medical examiner. How old, I'm not sure how old the pavement is, but it's completely breaking up. Highways came out and patched it several times for us. So we just think it's time to fix it up and completely do it the right way for that building.
What's the process after this? Let's say we approve this. What happens next, just internally, to get the contractor to ultimately come in, or the highway department to do it if they're doing it for us? Mm-hmm. Does the highway department charge ourselves to do it for us?
We do. Generally, they're a better deal for us. So the process from here, really only the 2026 capital items are authorized. When the final budget gets adopted in November, the 2026 items, they're locked in. You've approved those. Staff are going to go to town and do it. Seems that this is still in 2027. We're still just planning. So we know whether we need to throw some asphalt in that pothole or not, knowing what year we plan to tear it all out and replace it. So maintenance is determined based upon when we plan to fix it in a bigger way. So that's how the timing of this all helps us. When this rolls into the next year, so next year at this time, or November of next year, when the project is approved, it gets locked in. Taylor will go out to bid for that parking lot. The highway department can put in a cost estimate for that, as could a private contractor. Since they have a profit motive and our highway department doesn't, we generally have a better price from the highway department. So that's what happens. Taylor will award the bid to one of the bidders, and then the project will get scheduled and constructed.
Okay, Administrator, what, do you want to keep going?
Sure. So I was on project 10153 out in fiscal year 2029. So the DD building for an autopsy suite. So the medical examiner has the dream about, instead of sending bodies to Ramsey County to be autopsied, to build a suite in our building and then bring the forensic doctor to us to do the autopsies. And then we will be able to rent out that space for other counties, because everyone else goes to Ramsey also. The other way would be Marathon County. So there's a divide in the state, but all these counties are going into Minnesota also. So we'd be able to rent the space, have the doctor perform the autopsies there, and that would provide a cost savings and actually a revenue source for us then.
So I have a question on that.
Yeah.
That's 4 years out?
Yep, it is.
Why are we pushing that 4 years out if that's a revenue opportunity for us and also to save travel time for our fellow counties around us?
Sure. Generally, we put these on, and I ask everyone to put it on 5 years out. So nothing should ever be, hey, I got a great idea, let's do it right now. We should be planning these 5 years out. So it was added last year for the first time, so it was 5 years out. Now it's 4 years out. But the county board does have the ability to adjust the years if they want to. If you think that's a worthwhile idea and it should be moved up, then we can. The other thing I try to do is I try to balance at about $3 million per year for cash flow purposes. And so timing-wise also sometimes is dictated by the cost of the project and what year I think we could afford it.
Would the Chair of Public Protection want to look at that sooner? Mr. Fiedler?
We've talked about it at committee, and we might bring it up at our next meeting. I think that's a good idea. I think it also might be interesting to in the whole context of the huge bond that we're potentially going to consider in 2027, look at it then, and frankly, even look at the venue at where it's located. Yes, Mr. Chair, we'll probably pursue that.
Yeah, that'd probably be a great time to do it if you did want to move it up, not to move it to 26, but move it to 27, considering the cost of that item. So,
Okay, thank you. You can keep going.
all right, thank you. Next year, we do have $150,000 for the government center south parking area. So where the construction trailers are sitting right now, that's been roughed in for a parking lot, so this would finish that parking lot off. And then in 2027, we have $140,000 for the Huber carpet removal and floor polishing. So, at the original carpeting, I think that's what the sheriff said from '93. Yeah. Yeah, nice stuff. If anyone needs some slightly used carpeting. IT has.
Supervisor Long?
So if I'm correct, the new items that have been added to this particular facility section would be the parking lot, where, there, okay, yeah, you moved it, okay, the 150,000 for the south parking lot, would that be, that was new, correct?
Yeah, that is originally planned as part of the project. They're not sure that they have enough contingency funds left over. If we have enough contingency funds, we'll use the contingency funds. If not, it'll come from the fund balance of the KIP in 2026. So at the end of the day, it's really coming from the same spot. But it got added as a separate project just because they weren't sure they would have enough contingency funds left over. When the project was originally done and set up, and we created that list of all the items, and then we pulled some of them off, this was one of the items that was pulled off. So if we're gonna add it back in, this just guarantees it gets done, even if the contingency funds run out. We'll know in October.
Can you talk a little bit about the importance of that? I mean, is it really critical? What are the consequences of not doing it?
Yeah, so the south parking lot is going to be for employee parking. So the employees that work on the administrative side of the building and the sheriff's office and would be able to come in from the south stairwell and bypass the front security screening. The court side will probably still come through the front security screening because they all turn right and go down into the court hallway. But there isn't enough parking for all of the employees on that side. And so this just creates more parking on that side of the building, which frees up additional spaces in the front of the building for the customers. So it's about convenience for the employees, but also really about providing a better parking opportunity for our customers that are coming to visit the government center. Yeah. On the IT items then, we have recurring IT projects. These are pieces of equipment that get replaced every single year, $150,000 worth. A new project on there is $500,000 out in 2030 for Courts AV. So if you look at the lifespan of all the giant TVs and other technology that we've put into the courts, it'll be time to start replacing those. Then out in 2028, we have some county data storage replacement and replacing cameras in 28 and 29. Then we have a copy machine in 2027 and some cell signal repeaters for the service center in 2030. The last item then would be election software and server upgrades for the county clerk out a few years. So those are the projects. Any questions on any of the projects?
Are there any questions for the administrator? Any questions for the administrator?
The only other thing that I wanted to talk to you related to the KIP then was on that 2027 bond issuance, because that's going to be a big ask. I mean, I think we're looking at potentially $75 million ask. Timing-wise and when we'd be doing that, if you're gonna, it's for 2027 projects, you would do the authorizing resolution in December of 2026. So that'll be the meeting that you need a 3/4 vote to approve $75 million. So it seemed like a big deal. So I thought we would talk just a little bit about that. And one of the, I don't know. That's what you pay me for, is to figure out when this is a big deal or not. And this one seemed like it. So what I did was, now that I know our 7.5 million, our 2025 GO notes, what a 2027 debt issuance might look like, how I would structure it, what the payments would be. So those are principal payments over the 20 years for 75 million. Okay, and what does that do to our total debt, and what would be the impact to the taxpayer? I mean, those are the questions that we're going to want to ask. So one of the things that I did was, this starts in 2027, because this is future schedule, but we're sitting now and we'll be sitting then at about $10.8 million in annual payments. So that's what our annual payment is for debt service. Adding the 75 million and structuring it the way I have would take us, I kept it just under 15 million, so 14,995. So just under $15 million though is where it would put us, and we hold at that for 8 years. So I think that's important to note that really what I'm saying with that structure is that there'll be no more bond issues for the following 8 years. I've pretty much locked up, you know, I think what a realistic payment would be for an 8-year period. I also think though that this is the last big project. I mean, we've done everything. We did the healthcare campus. They bought and remodeled the service center. We did the new highway shop. We've done the government center addition. This would be the jail addition. We don't own any more buildings that need a major remodeling for the next decade. So this locks in a payment for 8 years that I think is sustainable, that we could stay at and not increase from there. And then what I do is I have it start to step down. So in that 9th year, it steps down by about $2 million. So that creates capacity for that future county board to say, okay, well, we have a project now that we need to borrow some money for, And there's capacity that they would be able to do that without increasing taxes. And again, in the 14th year, it steps down by another $2 million. So we're creating that future capacity that debt payments will never go higher than what they are over that 8-year period. So I kind of just wanted to lay out my thoughts on how we would structure it. When you look at the cost of that, it's about 20 to 25 cents per $1,000 of equalized value. It's going to fall somewhere right in that range. That's what the additional increment is. So if you have a $400,000 house, that's $100 per year. So for the average taxpayer, they're looking at about $100 per year for 20 years. That's what their cost, their portion of that jail project would be. And just one of the other things to highlight, I guess, was if I evenly distributed the payments over 20 years, the payments come out to 5.5 million, but we're going from 10.8 to just under 15. So we never actually go higher than 4.2 because I've structured it and I've layered it in with the current step downs that we already have. So we have step downs in there already, so they're absorbing 20% of this bond issuance. I just can't absorb all of it. 75 million is just too big to hide it all within our current payment structure. But that's where I think we would fall. So is that something that you want to discuss at the KIT meeting in July? Because this is really, it's a December of 26 issue, but I just think we should continue to talk about it so that it's not a surprise when we get there. And I actually asked for the vote.
I would say you'd want to put it on there and bring more detail than what you have here.
Okay.
So that when board members who will push back on it, you can have answers for them as to why this amount.
Mm-hmm.
Make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you need to have it on there though, because
Okay.
I mean, there's probably necessity in there for sure.
All right.
So,
So more detail about what part? So you mentioned
Yes.
what's included in the 75 million?
yes,
Okay. All right.
for sure.
Yep.
Yeah, are there, yes, Supervisor Fiedler?
I just agree with the chair, and we had the similar discussion at the PBJ last month and a similar conclusion. And in addition to that, one of the things we decided was very, very important was that we make sure we invite all the members of the board to do at least 1 or 2 jail tours over the next year, so that those who don't regularly see the jail and what's at stake in this have that opportunity to see it at least once, if not twice, over the next calendar year before we go to a final vote. So invitations will be coming, but the first one probably not until the fall or early spring of next year.
Yeah, but I would even say put 2 dates out there well ahead of time.
Well, there'll be lots of options.
Yeah, that way people will be able to clear their schedules to be able to attend that. Because you're right, that is important. Any questions for the administrator regarding this? Yep, go ahead, right ahead, Supervisor Counter.
You know, if they done any concept drawings or anything on this yet? So you do have that available. I would say that would be one of the things that you'd want to bring forward also then.
Sure. So maybe at the July meeting, we spend a little extra time on, the $60 million jail project. All right. Okay, good idea. Thank you.
Yeah, good idea. Good idea. All right. Any other questions? Yes, Supervisor Shirley.
Since we're talking about that project, I know PPJ has been working on this for quite a while, but I think it would benefit everybody if we had maybe a second option smaller, that something that would be an alternative if that whole project doesn't go at one time.
And I would second that for sure. That's a good idea. And then just to show the ramifications if we don't do it all at once, what the potential is.
Yeah, they've discussed that, and we'll go into more detail on that.
Totally. I think that'd be great. Any other questions for the administrator? Any other questions? Any other questions? Are you looking for action on this or just feedback at this point?
Unless you have specific feedback that you want to change something on the plan, you'll see it in more detail in July.
Yeah, that sounds great. All right, awesome. So we'll move on from that business item and go on to number 4, discussion on amending fund balance policy. I'll turn this over to Administrator Witt.
Yep. So the fund balance policy, it's probably due for a rewrite anyways. So there's a lot of language in here that we're updating and fixing, which is fine. But there's one main point that kind of spurred the action to review the policy, and that was the Moody's rating. So the Moody's rating on that last bond issue said there's two things that you can do that would help improve your chances for getting a bond upgrade. And one of them was to maintain a fund balance of 50%. The other one was your leverage ratio, make sure that it doesn't get over 250% and get down to closer to 100% would help get you increase. The other thing is we just need to continue to grow, which we're going to do, and we have less control over that. So fund balance policy. So what would it mean to change our current policy of 35% plus or minus 3 to 45% plus or minus 5? What are the pros and cons of that? I chose 45% and the plus or minus 5 because that puts you at 50, and we always tend to be at the top end. So we're always sitting right now at 38%. We don't go below that. We've been consistently at 38. Audit comes in, we're higher than that. We bring it back down to 38. So 45% plus or minus 5 is going to keep us consistently at 50 or just over 50. So that'll help then with our bond rating. Getting an upgraded bond rating would save us potentially about 0.5% interest on a future bond issue once you get that rating upgrade. The other thing that carrying that extra cash would do, and it's about $1.5 million, $1.7 million extra to get us up to that. I mean, so it's not a huge amount of money compared to what our totals are right now. But carrying that extra cash, if you multiply that out by the 4 to 5% interest that we're getting right now, you know, that's an extra $70,000 to $80,000 in interest earnings that we would have every year. So that's additional revenue then coming into the county that we could actually use to help cover some of our cost. The con side of it then is you're carrying extra cash. And so you have cash that could be used for a KIP project. It could be used to reduce debt, to help with taxpayer relief. So it's using it in a different way by choice of the county board. So it's really a policy decision that you have. So I had no idea how you guys might think about this. So I thought I'd put it on the agenda. So tonight is just a discussion. So to talk about those pros and cons, you guys can talk about it a little bit. We'll bring it back next month for an official vote. It gives you a little bit of time to absorb it and think about it some more before we recommend it. But we'll have an updated policy no matter what. But that's the key point. What do you want to do with that general fund policy?
So this is a discussion item. Is there anyone that would like to put their feedback on this? Anybody? Supervisor Long?
Somebody's got to ask a question. So right now, you say, Ken, we're running around 38%, and that's been pretty true historically. Moving it to 45 would be an additional 1.5 to 1.7 million. Is that correct?
Correct.
So what are the, I guess, what's the more immediate impact, say, for the 2026 budget?
Yeah, so the impact, so if you change this policy, what would happen is the audit report comes in August, and it says that we're something over 38, because every year the audit report comes in, we're over 38. So we're going to be at 44, 46, somewhere in there generally is where we fall. Then we do a resolution to move that money out of the general fund and send it to either the debt service or to the KIP. So we're going to miss a year of sending that money to the KIP. I think the KIP is healthy enough that that'll be okay. It's not going to disrupt our flow and our balance in the KIP to miss 1 year to do that. So I think that's the immediate, and it's a very small and easy way to absorb that increase, because I think we'll be there already probably this year within that 45% range.
What kind of a long-term impact then, if we end up borrowing $75 million and we save 0.5%, what kind of an impact is that going to have on our debt service and more specifically the taxpayers? I know that's a tough question, but thinking about longer term, what's the benefit for the taxpayer if we have a better interest rate?
Yeah, if we could get a rating increase, so I'm looking at this bottom number here, we're at 75 million, you'll pay 36 million in interest over the life of that bond. So if you knocked 1/8 of that off, because I budgeted that at 4%, so if you got that down to 3.5%, that's $4.6 million that you would save. Yeah, over 20 years.
So my question is, what is the percentage? Is it 0.5%? And that's not necessarily guaranteed if we do that, correct? So we would be putting the 1.5 to 1.7 aside. We would not be utilizing it for capital improvement projects. That money would not be in the private sector working, and there is a chance that we do not qualify for that when we go to borrow.
Actually is still in the private sector working because we put it into the bank lends that back out.
Yeah,
So,
sure,
I mean,
right.
so,
I mean, it's
I mean,
not
it-
cash in hand with someone.
Yeah, we don't have it stuffed in a mattress somewhere.
Right.
So, I mean, it is working. And really, the short-term gain is I'm getting 70 to 80,000 more in interest earnings every year off of that in the current rate environment. So that's actually really helpful for me. I mean, that's really not the immediate, but that short-range benefit
Yeah.
that I look at, that's a help for our operating budget side.
If I remember correctly, and I realize that we're talking fund balance policy, so I'm just going to leave it at that. Okay, are there any other questions for the administrator? Supervisor Shirley?
So the second item that the report said was percentage of debt. Wasn't that the other one? So if we add to the debt, then realistically, we're probably not getting a bond rating increase. I mean, realistically. So then if you look at your list of projects, maybe if we move that 1.5 to 1.7 over there, and in 2045, when we're back down to the 10 million payment, maybe then we'll get a credit rate increase.
Yeah, that's probably more realistic. You're probably 10 years out before we get a bond rating increase. This is something that you can do now or you can do 10 years from now. I think it's helpful either way to do it. But between now and that 10 years, I can get 70 to 80,000 per year in my operating budget by sacrificing 1 year of contribution into the KIP. So my cash flow in the KIP is okay, so I'm all right with bypassing that to get more money into the savings to generate more interest revenues.
But that's only if we get a bond rating increase.
No. So if I keep an extra 1.7 million in my savings account, the county savings account, the interest that I earn annually will go up by about 70 to 80,000 per year.
Okay, I do have one other thing. So, didn't the legislature just pass something a couple years ago allowing us to go after more general borrowing, like from lending institutions like banks and other mediums, rather than having to like really just stick with bonding? So have we started exploring that yet? And does this impact that underwriting as well?
Yes, we did that. So the 7.5 million was not a bond issue, it was a promissory note issue. So yes, we did that. At the end of the day, they look identical. There's really almost no difference on our side of the table. It all looks the same to us. We still get rated. All of the same rules apply. Who buys them on the other side, though, is what's different. And so that's fine on the market side for selling them. And there's more competition to buy them that way. So supposedly you get better rates. So it's all fine and dandy. It has not much of
So they still use the booties too?
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
Yep.
Okay, cool. Is there any other questions for the administrator? Any other questions or discussions? Supervisor Shirley?
Well, since nobody's giving you any suggestions yet, I'll be the first one. So if we take, say, 1.7 million, and then if that's gonna save you $80,000 a year, that's 21 and a quarter years before we actually hit dead even with that. So I would say we leave our fund balance where it is.
Are there any other input, discussion, thoughts, ideas, comments? Any other discussion? Any further discussion? Okay. Thank you, Administrator Witt. We'll look forward to seeing this back. And if anyone has anything else they'd like to share, just email the administrator. All right. Is there a request for future agenda items? Any requests for future agenda items? Are there any requests for future agenda items? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to announcements. Anything fun and exciting? Any announcements? Any announcements? All right, well, happy birthday, America, coming up. Date of next meeting will be July 15th, 2025, and because of that, all business items are accounted for. We are adjourned.